Okay, so this is going to be a quick video going over key liquidity pools that you need to be aware of. So step number one, you need to know that there are buy side liquidity resting above old highs and there are sell side liquidity resting beneath old lows. So for example, what do I mean when I say like old high and an old low? Simply means swing high, swing low levels. So like right here, for example, here's a swing low level. So you got your lowest candle in the middle, and then you got two higher lows on the left, and then you get a higher low on the right. See how this one is absolute lowest? Whenever you have something like that, that's what we would call a swing low level. And you need to understand that there is sell side liquidity, aka sell stops, resting beneath swing low levels like this, okay? And then we have like swing high levels where on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have buy stops resting above those, okay? Buy side liquidity. So again, high is high in the middle, then you got a lower high on the left, and then a lower high on the right. Simple as that. There's buy stops resting above swing high levels and sell stops resting beneath swing low levels. Now you might be thinking, well, I got a bunch of swing highs, I got a bunch of swing lows on my chart. How do I differentiate between where the major liquidity pools are and the less significant liquidity pools? So that's where you get into like trading sessions. So for example, there are a few, so like when we're trading Forex, there are a few really key trading sessions that you need to be aware of. You always need to have the highs and the lows noted of those said trading sessions. So like, for example, let's take Asian session first. Asian session is 7 p.m. Eastern time to New York, or to midnight New York time. So like, for example, let's zoom back here and let's see, where's that at? Right here. See this? So I'm going to note that really quick. So you see that high right there. This is from the day of, it was from the 12th. So again, Asian session is just coming into New York. So there's the high of Asian session, and the low is like right here. So like right coming down into New York. See that? So that's what you need to understand, because I know some of you are overwhelmed. You see like so many swing highs, so many swing lows on your chart. And you think to yourself, like, where's the significant liquidity pool? Which one do I go with? And these are the really significant liquidity pools. This is where you have these more significant levels, and it's with your key sessions. So like, we just went over Asian session. In a second, we'll go over London session, then New York session. But underneath this high, that's a key liquidity, or over top above that high, that's a key liquidity pool, buy side liquidity, and beneath this low, key liquidity pool, sell side liquidity. See, it came down, boom, it purged that sell side liquidity. You got your little confirmation, little shift in structure, came up, and then boom, it attacked that buy side. And that's all price does. It's always looking for that next liquidity pool to attack. Okay, that's how you need to think of price. You need to think of price like it's simply looking for that next draw on liquidity. It takes one, boom, and now it's looking for another. And your job as a trader is to identify where that draw on liquidity is. That's your job at the end of the day, is to figure out where is that next strong liquidity, where is that next liquidity pool that's going to be attacked, okay? But yeah, so those are two liquidity pools, or that's a key liquidity pool that you want to be aware of. Asian session, again, 7 p.m. Eastern time to midnight New York. You always want to note those highs and those lows. And now this kind of brings us into London session, which is your next key liquidity time period. So for example, London session, typically it's like 2 to 7 in that general area. You always want to note those highs and lows as well. So let's do that real quick. All right, boom. So again, that's a key time period as well. London session, those where key liquidity pools are. And so you always want to know London highs and lows, because again, those are, and it's always going to be a swing high and a swing low level, those highs and those lows, and those are your significant highs and lows that you want to pay very close attention to, okay? And then New York session. Now, I'm not talking about New York Killstone. I'm talking about New York session. New York session is 8 to 5, so 8 a.m. Eastern time, 5 to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. You want to note those session highs and lows as well, and you want to note like previous days. So like, just like pretend for example, we're coming down into New York session today. We want to note previous days New York. So like this was the low that was put in during New York. See right here. So you always want to note New York low and then New York high as well. Okay. And yep, right here. And that was the high that was made during New York session. Those are very key significant liquidity pools that you always want to be aware of, because there are sell stops a lot of sell stops at that beneath that level, and there are a lot of buy stops above that level. Okay, now we're going to talk about next is a really major significant liquidity pool that you most definitely always want to be aware of is previous day's highs and lows. Okay, so like many times that high and that low will be put in during New York session, the vast majority of the time. Okay, so you always want to be aware of, so like right here, see, this is previous day's highs. There is buy stops resting above that level, and then you got previous day's lows, and there's always sell stops resting beneath that level. So sell side liquidity. Okay, so you always want to be aware of those key liquidity pools as well. And now let's go to the weekly chart. So on the weekly chart, you need to understand that there are buy stops above previous week's highs. So like right here, for example, this is the week that was just completed. And the previous week, you can see price came up and it purged previous week's highs. So it took the buy side liquidity out of the marketplace. And previous week's lows, what's resting beneath this? Sell stops, right? We got sell side liquidity resting beneath that level. So we took out those buy stops. It's still pushing up. And what's above this level as well? Remember, what did I just say? What's resting above old highs? Buy side liquidity. There's buy stops above that as well, so we might be headed in that particular direction. Okay, now let's go. Lastly, let's go out to the monthly chart. And it's basically the same deal. So the monthly chart is, we got sell side liquidity beneath previous month's lows. So right here, for example, you can see we had a little Judas swing at the beginning of the month. It came down, took out sell side liquidity, that old low right there, previous month's lows, took those sell stops, tapped into our fair value gap as well, if you note that. And we still haven't took out what yet? We haven't taken out previous month's highs. What's resting above that level? Buy side liquidity. Buy stops is resting above previous month's highs. Okay, so I do think we're probably gonna tag that next, because what did I say at the beginning of this video? Your job as a trader is to identify that draw on liquidity, whereas that next liquidity pool to be attacked. And from where price is currently sitting, what has the best chance? There's not a 100% certainty, but what has the best chance of occurring next? It's probably going to attack that buy side from previous month's highs, because we tapped down into that imbalance. We took out previous month's lows. So now price is going to do what? It's going to seek that next key liquidity pool. That next key liquidity pool is right there. A lot of buy stops, a lot of buy side liquidity. It's resting above that level. So to kind of recap it one more time here, what did we just go over? Everything to kind of sum it up. Well, if we go back down to the intraday chart real quick, you can see, like I said, you always want to be aware of key time sessions like Asian session, which is 7 p.m. to midnight. And then you want to be aware of London session, which is like 2 to 7 a.m. Eastern time. And then you want to be aware of New York, 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. Those 3 time periods, or those 3 trading sessions, those are key liquidity pools above each of those highs and below each of those lows. Previous day's highs and lows, previous week's highs and lows, previous month's highs and lows. And yep, I think that about sums it up.